So, let's watch this. Thank you all for coming. I hope you're having a nice time. Right, feel free to ask me questions as we go, and I can explain things. If you have any questions about the video, please let me know, and I will answer them as we go as well. So, we're starting a little bit later in because I covered the first sort of 30 seconds of this in the last episode, which is in one of my posts on Patreon, which you can see. But we made it to about here.
That's why we're such resentful fuckheads. So, is making a video about why this game is so great actually a good idea?
So this is me asking the audience a question: why am I making a video about a positive video? People like negative critique because it's a lot more fun to listen to and it's a bit more exciting. So why am I doing this? And so because I asked that question, I was like, is this a good idea? And then I played this piece purposefully over it as if it was answering that question. This is where I was still sort of experimenting in the phase of using their motion controllers to sort of project myself into the videos, which is something I need to do more of, really. Talk to the audience. I did a lot of this in these early videos because it was a bit of a novelty for me. But see, I'm dancing with you with the music and stuff, which is something you can only do using VR. Really? So that was kind of what's happening here. I could complain about one thing.
For a game with so much locomotion, Fallout 4 VR plays quite effortlessly. Standing in the middle of a room waving your arms about with a box strapped to your head that does nothing but constantly flash lights into your face while gravity slowly wears you down is understandably a little tiring. But playing this game with the literal world flying past and spinning around you doesn't actually make you that sick. Not like this shit.
Okay, so there you go. So I stole that footage. I remember when I made the Elite Dangerous video, someone sent me this exact clip. I don't know who it was. It was on Twitter. So this isn't something that happened to me, but apparently it's a very common problem when you're playing Elite Dangerous, that because your ship is docked, it's being held in place, and if your ship sort of enters the object holding it and then it lets go, it sort of becomes a physics object that just like sort of detaches at a great velocity. So that's why that happens. And I just said that scream. That is an incredible scream. I know this isn't me being like, oh, I'm so great, but like screaming. This is. I think I've reused this scream before because it just sounds so convincing. Like I'm actually in here. So really, it's hard to do that because that's a proper like I'm scared scream. And I've said this before. Making a scream where you're not just going ah, because that's how fake screams sound because you're holding on. If you really want to scream like you're being killed, like ah! Like that sort of like fear is quite hard to emulate into your voice. So that was more of like a fear scream. That was more of like a terror proper scream. They're quite hard to do and they hurt your throat. What I do now is if I have to do screams, I do them all at the very end of recording. I wouldn't have done that for this one. I'd have recorded that scream and my voice would have taken the hit, and I'd have had to do the rest of this recording after doing lots of screaming, and so I don't do that anymore because that's bad. Because obviously it fucks your throat. Because you have to do it a few times before you fully let go, and by that time you've got a sore throat, and then you have to say 5 pages of script afterwards, so I don't do that anymore.
We have this huge open world game you can realistically play all the way through without your neck apparently snapping off.
I had a lot of trouble. I did that sound effect of the neck cracking, but this is also, I stole this from somewhere. I'd seen the GIF before, so I thought it would be funny. I had a lot of trouble with this. Coming up here in VR is really difficult because you're in the highest possible location. I might not even be standing on anything. And the game, trying to film this specific scene, the game crashed like 4 or 5 times just because it was having so much trouble loading all this stuff in VR. Yeah, Fallout 4 is not the best VR game. I mean, I'm about to talk about it being great for 19 minutes, but there you go.
Way through without your neck apparently snapping off. And do you know what they did with this absolutely wondrous achievement? Come here. Closer. No, closer. They released Fallout 4 VR without scope functionality, and it's such a fucking
So I'm talking about the lack of scopes. I just wanted to say this was also very hard to do. This bit here where to do this is quite straightforward. I mean, people who know a little bit about Fallout will know how this is done. I moved him manually using a console command. So I like did this scene. I was like,
Closer.
Come here, closer. And then I sort of opened up the console, clicked on him, and then moved him, changed his X and Y coordinates until he was there. Doing this without you seeing a noticeable jump in my head, because I'm taking off the headset, doing console commands, putting it back on, and making sure I'm standing in the same place, and then doing a cut.
Closer.
It's quite amazing how I managed to do that without it looking like I'm jumping all over the place. I think I just got very lucky with that. Yeah, and I had to hit him. I had to redo this so many times because obviously shooting someone and having them fall, like your companions are really strong. So I had to shoot him loads and loads of times and lower his health using a mod so that it would always hit him with the one hit, and then I would do that. It's always more complicated than it seems.
They released Fallout.
I haven't seen this video ever since, like basically since I've made it, so I have no recollection of anything we're about to watch. So I wonder how much.
4
will come
VR
back
without
to me.
scope functionality, and it's such a fucking momentary lapse in reasoning. I'm half expecting Pink Floyd to turn up and try and sue somebody. What?
Oh, there's this Pink Floyd jokes, right? They made an album called Momentary Lapse in Reason, for those who don't know, and that was me trying to be funny.
They did release the game so you can still attach scopes.
Yeah, so just to summarize for people who are I do explain this, but basically, when the game came out, you couldn't use scopes, and I just think that's not. I just don't think that's on, because you can add scopes to your gun so early on, and this is a very combat orientated game. And scopes are actually pretty important if you want to use any kind of class that uses, because you can't use any of the aiming, none of the zooming effects work. And a game that's basically built on combat, I just thought was a bit ridiculous. That's why I go on a little bit
Your
about
gun, but like the masochists they are, they didn't fucking work in the slightest. So you can't use them to zoom in and kill enemies. So the scopes just sit there teasing you. I am gonna talk about the good stuff soon, I swear. It's all well and good in the open parts of the game before you reach any towns and cities. There isn't much cover, and in the forests, there's so much cover you can just sneak through and go power fist on that ass.
I'd really like to show you all the different takes that I made of that. I wonder if I can find them. That took so many goes, and I have no idea where the original footage is. I've got like 6 drives in front of me, and it's on there somewhere. But basically, like, I use the console commands to level myself up to the highest level possible, so that I do as much physical damage using the melee. But I also gave myself the bloody mess perk, and of course that only activates every now and again. So I did this fucking thing. I don't know why I was so anal. I must have done this about 10 times until one of the hits was the bloody mess perk, because I really wanted them to blow up. All the other times you would hit them, they wouldn't die because it didn't do enough damage, or they would just fall over. So that took a lot of goes to get them to explode, because that was the explosions due to the bloody mess perk, which is like a 10% chance or something. So that was how I did that.
But once you reach
I really
the
wanted to
city,
do something
everyone is
like that.
behind cover, and that cover is behind fucking walls. So, I better just pull out my old trusty sniper rifle. Oh, wait. So you rock up.
God, I'm so fucking sarcastic in these videos. I don't do this anymore. I'm positive, but I am such a sarcastic fucker. Anyway.
Pissing bullets away like a diabetic with a pack of Skittles. These guns are not for shooting far away things, which is quite an odd thing to say about a gun, but you need a fucking scope, damn it. You don't bring a handgun to a wine tasting, and you don't fucking bring one here either. I'm not Bullseye. What is going on in this movie? So
The amount of jokes going on here, I don't know how I used to write. I need to try and write jokes like this again, like just bam, 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 bam. I'm gonna try and learn from this experience we're all having together. I don't have a lot to say. The only thing I would say is the Skittles thing was the first example of me using like proper props in a video. That was like the first go. To me, it felt so special when I first did it. It's so funny what a big deal all of that was. Ooh, where is it? I think I cut. I talk myself up quite a lot here. Before
sit with a pack of Skittles.
There we go. Like I talked myself up a lot before I filmed this scene, just because I didn't want to get it wrong. Because I was like, oh, I've only bought 1 pack of Skittles. Now, if I was doing something else, I'd buy 2 or 3 in case I wasn't happy with it. This was all not knowing what I'm doing at a world-class level. Anyway, sorry.
Breather. I'm not Bullseye. What is going on?
I really like this movie. It's one of my favorites. This is Daredevil that came out in like 2000. It's a really good movie.
In this movie.
It's not well received, but I really enjoy it.
So imagine the game has been out for over a month, and this entire area, which is the most substantial part of the game, I might add, is totally off limits, even though this was a full-price game, and it took 2 months for them to fix this.
Oh my.
And I know many of you are thinking, oh, he's just bad at shooting. And yes, this isn't
That was really hard as well, actually. All these little things that I just can't get on with the video. This was a but because it's quite easy. You save, because what I did it in like a way that was like, up, fire. So that I'm not aiming, I'm just basically just like, bam. And then, look at that. Look how beautifully missed that is. That took like 5 or 6 goes as well. Obviously, most of the time I hit him, but I really wanted to do like an over-the-shoulder shot.
Shooting. And yes, this isn't fucking Halo, people. We are actually aiming these guns. And if you haven't noticed because you've had several brain hemorrhages, I'm exceptionally British. And I'm about as good with an actual gun as I am with a mild breeze. I've called for help, but I don't think anyone's coming.
I was just about to say. I have no recollection of any of this because I made this video in about 3 weeks and it was a non-stop fever dream of madness where I almost lost my mind. But it snowed while I was making the video, like a week before I started writing. It snowed a week before I wrote this script. But I knew that I thought I could come up with a funny joke about going outside and not wanting to, so I recorded this. Just this footage of me doing this.
I've called for help, but I don't think anyone's coming.
But obviously I'm not. That's just a phone camera. I'm not saying anything. And I was like, oh, I'll use this footage on something. So I just knew that I wasn't going to get a lot of snow to use as props. So I just recorded it and then thought, well, I'll leave that and I'll save that for a future video. And then when I was talking about not going outside, I thought, oh, it's perfect. I'll just stick it in here. So that was something that... This is what comes of when you dedicate your life to making videos to the point in which you have no life. Because when I was making these videos, like the Elite Dangerous and the Fallout 4 VR ones, all I did was make videos and think about making videos because I wanted the channel. Because at this time I still don't think I had 100,000 subscribers, and if I did, it wasn't a lot more. And I was just like, I must get big because I can't go back to working in an office. So that was why every moment I was recording snow, being like, this would be good for a video. I don't do that anymore because it ruins your life, because you don't have a personal life, if you know what I mean.
The game has no crosshairs, and aiming down iron sights is not the same as Call of Duty, because contrary to popular belief, I am not steady arms McNever moves like Soapy Water over there. And yes, you can get good with the handguns and the rifle.
He was called Soapy Water because the character in that game is called Soap. I'm sure most of you probably know that.
And use them to snipe people, sort of. But it's a very bad solution to a very simple problem that we should not be having. Large sections of Fallout 4 were basically built around the fact that you could have scopes, and to remove them and still release it as a full game shows such an alarming lack of awareness on the part of the developers for what Fallout 4 is as an experience. Makes you wonder what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I think I stand by all of that. That's quite a lot of good commentary on my part. I think it's mad that a company that big can release a $60 game and it's missing a huge part. I just think it's just not on. They've really gone downhill, Bethesda, with the stuff they're doing recently, like with Fallout 76 not really being finished. When we did the raids, I did a raid with some friends and it just didn't work. Like it was unplayable, a lot of it. And I'm not talking about, like, we were very bad at it, I accept that, but I had so many game-breaking glitches, and we had to start again once just because we glitched so bad that we couldn't finish the thing. Anyway, so these bananas, I wanted something funny to go along with, what the hell is going on? And I just typed in mods, and the first mod I saw was banana guns, and so I used console commands to make myself in the sky, set my Z position, which is your height, to a high number, just typed in banana gun spawn 100, and then put myself back where I started, and then you just wait until they all eventually, because you spawn them in the sky where you are, then you move yourself while the game is paused using console commands, and then you unpause and they all fall and eventually get to you. So that's how I did that. It's a common technique I used when I was making my machinima. I basically spawned all of this in one go very high up, and then it fell and reached me.
Look, I make fun of them for being inept, but I don't think it's that at all. I think they ran out of time and didn't have enough resources to get everything done.
I'm glad I said all of this. It's not Bethesda's fault. It's not Bethesda Game Studios' fault. It's the fault of Bethesda. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. They're a subsidiary, and I imagine their bosses are just being like, get it done for this date, and it's like, okay, let's port an entire game to VR in a month. You know, that's how I imagine things were given to them.
As well as that, this is all very new.
Look at that little face. Oh, I thought I was making a funny face, but I'm not. I mean, that's a pretty weird face. Anyway, sorry. I keep pressing mute.
As well as that, this is all very new technology.
Oh, shit!
That was the sound. I don't know what that noise was when I dropped it. I made it. That's obviously a fake sound. Basically, directly below, I'd say here, you just can't see it. There's like a pile of pillows and bed cushions. So it basically just fell and landed about here, just below, like sort of just below this bit. So it was all fine, and I added fake sounds. The vibe was fine. And as you see there, if you look very closely, there's that little white thing on my sofa there. That's Sid pulling out the threading on the sofa because he's a dickhead.
Oh, shit!
It is probably really, really difficult to add shit like this on the fly. So what I take from this is we all need to slow down. And
it's a very simple visual technique. I say slow down, so to do this, you can set the speed in which the Bethesda games run just by typing in set timescale, I think. Set timescale. Or am I in VATS? I can't remember how I did this. I think you can, yeah, no. Actually, I think I used a slow motion mod, actually. I downloaded a mod that you pressed a button and it entered bullet time, and that was how I did this.
Take on the massively overquoted words from the human equivalent of Taoism that is Shigeru Miyamoto.
Shigeru Miyamoto. A delayed game is
A delayed game.
I stole this from a guy called Matthew Matosis. If you're into game reviews that are sort of a bit more long form, he's very good. And I stole this from, he quoted Shigeru and I quoted him quoting him.
Is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. He probably said that in Japanese.
I make a lot of sort of Japanese jokes about Shigeru Miyamoto. I quote him and then be like, he probably said that in Japanese though. I don't know why. I just think it's funny. Oh, sorry, I moved the video. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't notice that. There we go. Thank you guys. Sorry about that. It's gotten a bit smaller, I think. Let me pull this down. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right.
Well, that was all well and good before we started updating a game non-stop every day for 2 years to make it fucking passable. So there you go. We have scopes now, so it's all wasted breath anyway.
I was shouting a lot there. That's just me complaining about how games and like when The Witcher 3, like CD Projekt Red don't do stuff like this. They release a game and it's generally finished and everyone loves it, but Bethesda's obviously not on that route. And I think people do mind that games they get aren't finished and they get updated over time, and this is kind of what I was just getting at there.
All is forgiven, but I clearly haven't forgotten. Or forgiven, actually.
I can see that Lone Star.
So we're 4 minutes in and I haven't even started talking about the good stuff. I have no idea how I made a 20-minute video in 3 weeks, but I did it.
1,000 miles away.
The video is demonetized because of this sequence.
The most striking thing about Fallout 4 VR is how well designed the shooting mechanics are. To put it simply, it works really, really well and is worryingly enjoyable. The aiming is pretty much flawless. Fuck! And the 3D is so well implemented you can properly admire the genuinely beautiful craftsmanship and design of the weapons in this game.
I think I stand by all of this. When you play this game, the shooting does work really well. The main issue with the game is that the performance isn't very good, so it's just really difficult to walk around because it's such a big open space in VR that your computer really struggles with it, and that's its main problem. As well as, you know, it's very fuzzy. It's a very fuzzy game because it's a port rather than a you know, it's not built from the ground up for VR. But the weapons do look fucking great. I was trying to say, like this. The amount of detail in their weapons is incredible. Like all of this in VR, it's all separate. You know, it's all three-dimensional. It's all rendered in 3D, so you could look at it. It's not just like a crappy gun. But I mean, that's, you know, it's true of all games. You know, everything's in 3D. Why wouldn't it be?
You can properly admire the genuinely beautiful craftsmanship and design of the weapons in this game. Look, the Fallout series has absolutely amazing art design, thanks majoritively to the artists of the original game, namely Leonard
Boyarsky. So this guy, I believe, worked on Fallout New Vegas, didn't he? We'll probably say it here. He worked with Fallout 2, and then he joined Obsidian Entertainment. So he's not... I think he's working on the Outer Worlds. He's doing the art design on that, if I'm thinking correctly. So the guy who did Fallout 1 and 2 is going to be doing the art in Fallout in the Outer Worlds, which is why it looks so much like a Fallout game and has such a strong vibe, as well as all the other reasons a lot of people working on the Outer Worlds also worked on Fallout 2, not just him.
And his
Fallout
art
New
team.
Vegas.
What the fuck? And to be able to actually hold these awesome weapons and have them work so well is why this game survives so many of its flaws.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, in any game like Doom and stuff, you can see all this stuff moves. I get kind of what I'm getting at is this sort of thing in VR is so cool when you can sort of look at it from any angle, because you're used to, when you play first-person shooter games, you're used to seeing all of this sort of stuff in one specific angle. But in this game, because it's kind of a port, you've played it in 2D and now you play it in 3D, and you're like, oh, look at all this stuff that you don't even notice that's changing on all the guns, and like this rotates and this moves around. It's not impressive in of itself, because all games do that, all first-person shooters. It's just cool to see it in VR is kind of what I'm getting at.
So many of its flaws. This is arguably the most important...
That's also a running joke. Whenever I say the word flaws, I show a picture of a floor in a building. I don't know why I thought that was worth doing, but I thought it was funny. And here I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to shoot him in the face with a nail gun. This was very hard to do as well, because obviously most of the time his head didn't get decapitated, so I had to do this several times.
Important part they needed to get right. And to be honest, they absolutely nailed it. Shoot, shoot. A lot of people also complain about having no hands, but this isn't something I notice. There are already really good VR games out, like Arizona Sunshine, where you have hands. But for in-game hands to work in VR...
I've been playing this with the Index, Arizona Sunshine, and it is fucking horrifying. I can really recommend it if you ever get a VR headset. Arizona Sunshine is absolutely wonderful. It's really scary because there's just like zombies running at you. It was the first proper, like, it feels a lot more like you're shooting humanoid bodies than Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is a bit cartoony. This is quite realistic. This is one of the most horrifying games
but for in-game
ever.
hands to
You
work
really
in
feel like
VR,
you're
they
just
generally
murdering
have to
people.
move independently from you anyway when you do things like reload and perform certain actions. So having them in the game doesn't really help the immersion at all. And to be honest, I really like watching how the guns behave in Fallout 4 with nothing in the way. Seeing how they work and reload is honestly a little mesmerizing to me.
Calling me back home, though I ventured far.
Now, here's the real question. Why have I got Vaseline when I'm talking about VATS? Does anyone know? I don't fucking know. This is news to me. Vaseline. VATS. I guess it's... Oh, no, I know what it is. It's because this is a vat of Vaseline. That was why it's Vaseline is there. I typed in VAT, and this is what I came up. It's a vat of Vaseline. That's why I did that. Now you all know, and I'm sure you'll never have to ask again.
VATS is hands down.
Hands down, he's a genius. I've done it again. Puns. The puns never end. I never realised I
Most
did so many
impressive thing
puns.
Bethesda have achieved in this port. The
Yes.
team here have made something truly special.
Look, I don't write these shit jokes. They just keep happening.
That's kind of what I was just saying just then. I was like, how did I keep making so many fucking puns? And there's the Skittles up there.
And it's surprising.
Right, I'll have to do a video with more puns and sarcasm because clearly this was popular amongst the youths.
Balanced.
And again, this was quite hard to do. I remember trying to do this. I wanted to press VATS as he was coming to... So, like, I managed to get him just stopping there. I was always getting him too far away or too close to me, but here I kind of got it proper.
In a game with a fucking compulsory invincibility mode.
I stole this from a... I'm sorry, I'm interjecting quite a lot. I stole this from one of my machinimas that I made, which was an equally difficult scene to record. How did I do this? So I'm talking about the game having an invincibility mode because you can wear power armor and it just makes the game too easy. And now you've got VATS, which makes the game even easier. But in VR, they made VATS a bit more difficult. But here, what I did for this was I downloaded the power armor mod, obviously, and then I think I threw a grenade, went into third person, and then walked
Fucking
away.
compulsory invincibility
Yeah, that's a nuclear grenade going off. That's right.
mode. VATS here could stand as a benchmark for how slow motion VR gameplay could be integrated into RPGs. It's that good. In previous games, VATS was basically just a pause button that gave you some options of what you could do. And this was a good interpretation of turn-based combat. But in VR, this mechanic's now controlled by where you yourself are aiming. So by slowing down time, it gives you more of a chance to center your aim on the target, which, as I've discussed, when the target is a little further away is... this is so difficult. Fallout 4, one way or...
Yeah, I let myself speak there a lot just because I think I'm on the money with that one, he says. I just let myself speak because I thought I was about to say everything I agreed with, and I do agree with what I said. The VATS in this game is really good just because it's the only part of the game that I think they improved in the port. Obviously, it was in 3D, which is an improvement, but other than that, I didn't find anything was specifically better, but the VATS, I think, is better in this game. It worked so well because because it didn't pause the game, it just slowed it down. It didn't make the game too easy. You just it just gave you more time to aim effectively, while still being a percentage chance. But that was me just repeating what I said. It's really good. I liked it. It was good.
Focuses way more on action-based gameplay than strategic role-playing, and VATS has been altered in Fallout 4 VR to match this core gameplay on offer, rather than just being an unrevised carbon copy Klingon from earlier
Klingon! Who gets that? Does anyone get that?
iterations of the series.
Carbon copy Klingon because it's a Klingon? Surely that makes sense. We can all work. At least I didn't show poo attached to a bum.
It's a really nice change to have made and fits the new gameplay exceptionally well. Whew, we got very analytical there.
And there's some chemistry stuff. Analytical. I don't know. I don't know how. It's so much work, all of this. I just watched these back and I'm like, my God, this was a lot of work. Sorry, here we go.
Here's me falling from the highest point in the map to make up for it. Whoa, oh. This isn't so bad. What the fuck?
When I see that beacon shining.
That was really hard to do as well. This was just an idea I had in mind. I really wanted to be falling and be like, oh, this isn't so bad. And I'm like, and then I see something strange. This was really hard to do for quite a lot of different reasons. One, obviously, every time I spawned myself up here, the game was spawning in VR the entire map. And so the game was crashing. So I had that problem. I had to get up here without the game crashing. Then I had to get him to stay there. Because he's so big, I set him to scale 10, which is the maximum size you can set someone, and I put him on the highest point in the map. So he kept disappearing just because he was too big, so he would clip into nothing. And he was also sort of entering space that he shouldn't have been in because he was standing on like the edge of a building, so he kept falling off. So once I got him there without disappearing, I had to get myself up here and fall and turn and look at him at the exact right time. Because you have to keep in mind, I don't know what I'm saying. So for example, the sentence goes,
Whoa,
this
isn't
so
bad.
bad.
What the?
And obviously I don't hear that. I'm in VR. I'm like, right, okay. So I'm saying the lines in my head. And so I'm like, okay, whoa, all right. And then I'm like, shall I look over now? Shall I wait? When shall I turn? And if I turn too late, I'll miss him. But if I turn too early, it will fuck up the audio. I won't be able to sync it up. So this sort of
This isn't so bad. What the fuck?
And I lifted my gun up as well in surprise. So I had to work out when I had to lift that up. Like, how long should I look at him before I go, It's a lot of things to think about. And when you're doing it in VR as well, because it makes you quite sick because you're like having to take the headset off, do the console commands to put you in the sky, then you have to put the headset back on and unpause the game, make sure it's recording. It's a lot of fucking work. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this is the what I went through when I was making it. It was very tricky recording that scene particularly. That was MacCready, my boy.
And I see that beacon shining for me all along.
And now I'm about to talk about the animations. So this kind of goes in line with the weapon thing. I give Bethesda a lot of credit in this video for putting so much detail into their animations, especially on like Mr. Handy. All of this stuff moves independently, but I guess it's just modern game design. Games are this complicated. I guess I'm just mostly saying that it's amazing seeing it in VR, but it's nice they put the effort in. Mr. Handy's especially, every single part of them moves independently from itself. There's a lot of joints in the meshes and stuff. It's very impressive.
So I spawned Rick and Morty, Bob Ross, and Gordon Ramsay.
Now, I don't know. Let me say the scene and then I'll explain. Sorry, I'll let myself finish. I'm just interrupting myself. All right, let's try again.
So I spawned Rick and Morty, Bob Ross, and Gordon Ramsay, and we're all hanging out in VR. I have spent literally thousands of hours looking at these faces while making Machinima, and seeing them in full life 3D is honestly a little emotional.
That's impossible to reach. I'm not a magician, you know?
I hate all of you!
Right, okay, I'll explain this and then we'll finish there. I don't want to talk about how difficult this was to do because I felt like I've done that a lot. This was very hard to set up. I'll leave it at that. But what I'm referring to here is that this is for people who... Because this was still very fresh off the back of when I used to make Machinima. I'm trying to go back to when they were all there. Especially the Rick and Morty stuff. None of that's on my channel anymore, so you can't even see it. So you look at this and you're like, what the fuck am I talking about? But I managed to get them all lining up. And the joke here, just for people who don't know, is when you tell MacCready to go somewhere and the game is incapable of getting him there, he complains about it. But obviously I couldn't get that to work at the right time because I had them all online. He wasn't just going to say that
out
line.
in VR. I have spent
I'm
literally thousands of
fairly
hours looking at
sure.
these faces while making Machinima, and seeing them in full life 3D is honestly a little emotional.
Yeah, so all I'm doing here is I'm playing an audio clip of him saying that, but he's not actually saying it in this scene.
Impossible to reach. I'm not a magician, you know?
Oh, maybe he does say it then. Oh, fuck, I don't know how I set all this up, honestly. I'm just surprising myself. I don't know how I managed to get them all together and have him stay there and also say the required line, because he was definitely saying it. I haven't a clue. Because you have to like look and point and be like, well, actually, you know what I think I'm doing? I've got both my hands out in front of me, left and right hand. My right hand is pointing somewhere where he can't reach, and I've set it so that his AI is turned off so that he won't walk, but he'll still speak. And I'm just wildly pressing behind me until he goes, I'm not a magician. And then I started looking around and I looked at him and caught him finishing it. So that's how I did that. I'm surprised I went through that much effort. But there you go. That's it. We'll leave it at there. We've done 35 minutes. So these are, for people who are new, I do a half an hour one of these every week, every Sunday at around 4 p.m. my time, which was about half an hour ago from now. And we'll do that every week. And this is just for patrons. And I make them, and we just go over my videos and I just watch them with you guys. And I talk about stuff that comes back to me and little tidbits of information. I love you all. You're all beautiful. You're all wonderful people. I'll see you soon.